All right, y'all. Listen, it's 3:23 p.m. It's Sunday afternoon, the 8th of April. My least favorite day of the week, driving back to Texas. This will not last forever, I can tell you right now. Anyway, continuity of community. We've talked about security. We've talked about fuel. We've talked about get out of my way truck. We talk about get out of my way truck quite a bit, don't we? It's because I do a lot of driving. We've talked about a lot of different things thus far. We've talked about people coming. What does that look like? So, I want to talk about hierarchy, the outline for your group, the outline for your tribe, the outline for your community, I believe, should look something like this. You should have a large enough group that you basically have a chief. Okay? And you can pick whatever terms you want, but just go with me on this. You should have a chief. Okay? You should have a spiritual leader. You should have a war leader, Secretary of Defense, whatever. Okay? A war leader. You should have a representative for the men and a representative for the women, totaling 5 people. All of those 5, right, are involved in the decision making. Meaning, you need a 3/5 majority on everything in order to move forward or to put a stop to something or whatever. Something is really on fire right there. A whole house. Holy crap. Wow. That's not good. It looked like an old house, but that's still not good. So, you should have a 3/5 majority on... T, are you going to stop and put the house out? No, there were emergency vehicles there, okay? All right. I'm only one man. I can't, put out house fires by myself while commuting from Oklahoma to Texas to go run a business. And maybe drop my phone while driving. 3/5 majority to move forward with anything. Now that's going to create interplay between, the tribal chief, the war chief, the spiritual leader, the men and the women. Yeah, roger that, but everybody's got some representation, and it allows you to get input from different angles on the same thing. Because most of our problems, most of our challenges are not, they're not black and white. They're gray. They're multifaceted. So that gives you 5 different interpretations of the same situation. Does that make sense? And if 3 of those 5 interpretations are, coincide with one another, you have a consensus. You can come to a decision. Your tribe should have, nuclear families that all, coalesce around, their groups, their clans, right? Clan Bob, Clan Jim, Clan Joe, Clan Mike, whatever. Then your nuclear family. And if you don't have a nuclear family, get in where you fit in. Find somebody, right? And there's always room for people. And then, you have your different professions in your group. You have the guy who's really good at growing stuff, and the lady who's really good with animals, and the whatever, right? We've talked about prepper skills before, but community skills. You want like-minded people of an accord. That means we've all agreed that we're going to do this together. I may not always like you, but I love you. That accounts for a lot of success in a community. Being able to look past the right now and look at the what if later on. Okay? Being able to love somebody when you don't like them is important. Things to consider. Especially in a community environment. So, sorry, my mind's wandering. I'm thinking about that house that burnt. That's not good. If you have an emergency, who has the executive authority to usurp the 3/5 majority required to act? Tribal leader. That's why it's a tribal leader. How do you pick a tribal leader? I don't know. Every 4 years, you get two people and you have them fight it out and spend billions of dollars to sway the tribe one way or the other. You take a vote. You take a vote. And I really believe, just as a side note, I think there should be a clause, a competency clause. If the clan, the tribe, the whatever, your mag, your group, your community loses faith in your ability to competently perform the duties required for the job, you should be able to be recalled. I think that's fair, because that does away with the political aspect of it. Your merit, it's purely a merit-based system. If you fail to perform, love you, bye. And that's the way it should be in all things, in my opinion, in life. In all things, if you fail to perform, love you, bye. Let's try you over here at dog catcher. You would be an excellent dog catcher, or whatever, okay? So, these are things to think about, because people will inherently fill roles based upon their character traits and their personalities, and nature abhors a void. So if there's a role that's not filled, it will be. It may not be filled satisfactorily, but it'll be filled. Somebody will step into that position. So, and I've mentioned previously in other videos, we have an older couple. I believe they are the oldest couple in our mag, and I believe they are in their 70s. Who we treasure and cherish, and they are marriage counselors. They operate a Christ-centered marriage counseling program where people come live with them. Like, for real. You got a problem? If you're willing to put in the work, you and your spouse go to them and live with them. And they train you on how to be a good husband and a good wife based upon biblical principles. And they resolve conflicts. It's what they do. So, having two people in the group whose job it is to resolve conflict is a major plus. Because, frankly, we have guys in the group as well, and sometimes I'm one of them. The conflict resolution looks a lot like the Mozambique drill. Bang, bang, bang. And that is not always the finest course of action, okay? So balancing those character traits and those personalities is something to think about, all right? If you have, look at the teams. You get a group of all alpha males together in a stressful situation, eventually people start eating their own, right? And everything becomes a competition. And a community can't be in perpetual competition with itself, or you don't have a community anymore. Now, in the SF community, Special Forces community, you can get away with it because there's a rigid structure and there are clearly defined mission objectives, and there are clearly established and policed benchmarks that people must achieve in order to remain part of the community and to progress within that community. That's how you get a group of alpha males together and not have the place burnt to the ground in 3 days. Without those things, the place is going to burn to the ground in 3 days because it's constant conflict in a good way. Conflict breeds resolution. It's just a matter of what does that resolution look like. There are varying degrees of resolution. Some are more aesthetically pleasing than others. So that's my opinion on the structure of the hierarchy for your continuity of community. How would you control all the people, right? And some of y'all, especially you suburbanites, may find yourself with a group of people thrust upon you. So I would remember this. It's a good rule of thumb to not have anybody in charge of more than 5 people at a time. So you can have one guy that has 5 guys report to him. They each have 5 guys report to them, and they each have 5 guys that report to them. Now you have one guy can communicate with 125 people that quick. Okay? The next step from there, 5 underneath each of them, is 625 people. Bang. Right? And then the next is 3,125. It's a big deal. Okay, so that's why you have layers of hierarchy, right? So, it's a pyramid structure basically. So I would employ that, especially for things like work crews, security, where you have large groups of people working together in concert to make things happen. I would break them out into teams, 4-man teams maybe, or, whatever. And when I say man, just please give me that. I'm not, I love women. Women are very valuable, and I'm not trying to degrade y'all by using the phrase man all the time, but man or woman teams. So on bigger projects that require more people, I would have more, I would have it broken into, rather than we have a 17-person work crew, I'd have, 3-4 person teams and a 5-person team, right? And then disperse those teams as needed for different tasks. So, same thing with security. Maybe you got 12 people, have 3 4-person teams or whatever, or honestly probably 2 6-person teams would be the best way to go about that. And then everybody's got a swim buddy. Everybody's got Joe and Bob married at the hip, whatever. So I would do that, break it down so that you don't have chaos at the top and you have layers of management. Your tribal chief does not need to know that the security team needs to requisition 36 rounds of 9mm to train a basic pistol drill that can be handled in a layer of management far below the tribal chief. Okay? You don't want to institute bureaucracy. I mean, I'm not looking forward to SHTF, but one of the things that I'm hoping goes away is bureaucracy. But you also don't want to trouble people that are making larger decisions with smaller bits of information. Does that make sense? Or things that are not relative to the decision-making process for them. You let the command above you decide whether or not that needs to be passed on. And eventually your command will say, you know what, we started this gig with 8,000 rounds of 9mm and we're down to 2,000. We should probably either get more, figure out how we're going to trade for more, or stop training as much with 9, or figure out how we're going to make our own, or start scavenging, or come up with a plan. right? But we don't need to know about the 36 rounds that we had to requisition to go shoot this pistol drill. So, and give people responsibility. I've talked about this before several times, but give people responsibility, because most people just absolutely bloom with a little bit of responsibility. You might say, all right, Felicia, this 1/4 acre of garden plot right here is all yours. We would really like to grow we want to do the Three Sisters method here of beans, corn, and squash right here. And then we think over here we'd like to try some melons. Have at it. And man, when people accomplish their objectives, you give them an opportunity to accomplish an objective and empower them through that process, they just come alive. So find what people are good at, which comes back to know your people, which comes back, sorry, I lost y'all. Okay, comes back to have a community in the first place. So give people responsibility, manage them, and assist them through the process of fulfilling that responsibility, and watch them just blossom and grow. Okay, so what's that old German drinking song? Edelweiss? Blossom of snow, may you bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my homeland forever. Oh, I need a Stein right now. Warsteiner Dunkelweiss. Why am I not at Oktoberfest right now? Sorry. Real life. Man, okay, community. We're going to have a whole nother video on continuity of community. How to have your preparedness Oktoberfest to make life worth living after the world ends. Bye, y'all.